listeners, welcome viewers. We are live on Twitch Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock. Please join us for these live broadcasts. It's a lot of fun. If you're not available on Tuesday nights, you can always watch all of our content over on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. We appreciate that. It helps us out. So please do that. And leave us comments. We love to have conversations with you guys. That's why the live broadcast will be great to join us. We'll chat with you guys while we're in here. All right, guys. 698. Tony, I know you missed the last episode, and we're going to get into what I've been up to shortly here, but I thought I represented us well for the hate Microsoft thing. I tried. I thought I did a pretty good job, but then Tony's like, you didn't do good enough.
I mean, for you, yes. I'll give you credit. For you, yes. That was good.
Yeah. I mean, it's a disaster, and we'll get into it, definitely. And I know you were angry you missed the episode pretty much.
Yeah,
but
I mean, whatever.
You had to do what you had to do. You had to do what you had to do. Yeah.
Had to pick, the 1 week I had plans to fucking, throw in the towel and just piss on everything they built up for 20-something years. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Phil Spencer doesn't work on my time. I understand that. When has Phil Spencer?
He doesn't work on his time either. So.
Well, I mean, he apparently has time to play fucking Fallout 76. So.
Oh, that's true. And start nuking things.
He got his camp got nuked, and in response, he has achieved nukes himself in the game now. So there's gonna be war in Fallout 76 for those wondering.
Yeah.
The guy who nuked his camp said that it had nothing to do with the announcement. He was already prepping to do this. It just happened at the same time. But guys, so let's get into Microsoft later. Let's talk about what we've been up to. Anybody else pick up Animal Well?
Not yet.
So I picked it up. It was 10% off on Steam. It's a great Steam Deck game to have. It's like that. It's a Metroidvania game. If you haven't heard about this game yet, Metroidvania, not a lot of combat. It's puzzles. So basically, almost each slide, each room you go into, you have a couple break rooms pretty much to move across in. But most rooms are based on puzzles. Sometimes there's some enemies that can actually hurt you, but it's kind of random. And it's just trying to figure out how to traverse as this little blob in the game. And you receive weapon power-ups, weapons as in like bubble wands and stuff like that. And it's like to make you traverse better in the game. That's pretty much the game. It's Metroidvania, Metroid style games. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm about 2.5 hours in. It's only about a 5-hour game. But I played a little bit. I've been playing it at work, which is great, in little piecemeal sides. The worst is when you go on this massive run through getting through these puzzles and you can't get to there's save points, and you didn't have a save point and you screw up and you got to go way back. That's the frustrating part, but
it should
that's
be
the style of the
anything
game.
for Elden Lord.
And listen, it's happened like twice, and both those times I'll blame work. Okay, I'll blame getting interrupted. It's a timing-based game. It's timing-based.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's some speed. There's some stuff that can kill you in the game. So you do have to move at certain points. But, I enjoy the puzzles. The puzzles are really good. Like, really good. There's some basic ones that get you warmed up. And then there's ones where you're like, how do I get there? What are you looking for me to do here? And it's just like, sometimes you don't have an answer. You have to just move on and come back later. And the game there's no story to tell you what it's no idea what's happening. You just kind of discover the own world yourself. I'm digging it. Like, it's actually really fun. And it's not a long game, but to get all the eggs, you have to collect these eggs. Mm-hmm. To get all the eggs, apparently it's like multiple, like could be up to 20 hours.
Yeah.
The main game takes about 5-ish. So I'll have more reports next week, but it's fun. Like, I would recommend it for people. I think it's on the PSN. If you have the PlayStation Network stuff, you can probably get it on that. It's part of the subscription, I believe. But it's also on Steam Deck. So
I mean, it should be on everything. I think
it's on everything on Switch, I believe. Mm-hmm. But it's 10% off right now on Steam. So that's why I picked it up. But yeah.
Good for you, Jim. Good for you for supporting the purchase of an indie game developed by one person.
It was one person that did that game.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I just knew that it looked interesting for me. So
yeah, it was, this is the first game also published by the YouTube content creator Donkey. So
yeah, cool. And then let's see what else. I just finished Kraven in Spider-Man 2. The first encounter.
Oh, Jim, Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
You get the Spider-Man bundle. So the Xbox is gone? Is that what's happened?
My Xbox is gone.
They teased it last week, folks, and here he is.
To be honest, I had already ordered the PlayStation. The Xbox is just extra credit. That was the PlayStation was already coming in. I had to find a Spider-Man bundle, which actually is getting tough. So thank you, PC Richards. Walmart had them though. They still have them at Walmart. I stupidly didn't think to go to Walmart by me because they never have PlayStations in stock, but they had a bunch of this. And but I had it for PC Richards. I ordered it and got the bundle for the $450 for the Spider-Man 2 Slim unit. Which, by the way, the PS5 Slim, it's a nice unit. Like I just went from an Xbox and it's not much bigger than an Xbox. It's lengthwise thinner though, lighter. It's I like. You know what? By the way, guys, I'm obviously against. I'm not a biggest Microsoft fan now, clearly, but I will I usually argue. They make better hardware. They make better, I like their controller. But I will tell you, I really enjoy this PS5 controller. I think
that's really good.
The feedback is incredible. I love that feedback and the built-in microphone. I'm like, holy crap, they're talking to me through the mic. I love that speaker built into the controller. Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, I'm playing Spider-Man 2 clearly. Nothing else yet, but I have a lot of credit, so we know the next game I'm getting. It's Final Fantasy VII. That's happening, but I want to just get through. Yeah, I know they do. But I'm just like I said, this is a long time coming, and I'm pretty happy to have the system. Excited. It's a whole new area of games for me to get into now. I got Thor. I got God of War, Ragnarok. I almost said Thor Ragnarok. But I was waiting on. I actually still have my Xbox games because I was waiting on the 50% bonus credit this week on GameStop. Yep. So I'll be going back. Yeah. So that's all getting traded in now. This week I'll be getting that, and yeah. So I'll be picking up some stuff. Jim. But just it's exciting to have a new system. Not on Microsoft themselves. Obviously we have problems, but just getting a new system is exciting. A lot of stuff to get for it. But yeah, but then I traded in the
curious
Xbox.
about the Pro Controller, their Pro Controller for Sony's build, because their regular one's so nice. I never felt the need for the other a Elite controller.
I'd be so hesitant. After hearing you guys talk about that Pro or the Elite controller or whatever.
The Xbox one. It's such a great controller, but just falls apart.
Well, yeah,
I have this controller still.
That's the downside to it. It falls apart.
Yeah. So this controller was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I believe
first of all, it's got no value. You can't trade it in because nobody takes it back. But it also has the controller stick drift, and you spent $160 on this thing, and it's got the stick drift. That's ridiculous.
That's the thing. Is a regular controller. I mean, those are already expensive enough. You're talking about 70, 60, 50 on sale, right? At best.
Yeah.
But if my PS5 controller craps out after 3 years, whatever, okay, I get it, right? It's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But if I spent $200 on a fucking controller and it just fell apart after 3 years, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah. No, that's it. When it started doing the stick drift, after you flick a stick and it would make you go backwards, I'm like, this is stupid. $200 for this controller and it makes me go backwards when I flick the stick.
Well, I mean, that's why I never got it. But the original, the basic one is really nice though.
Yeah. No, but
it's got heft to it too, which I like because
Corey likes heft.
Gotta have some meat on the bone to be able to grip something.
Very happy. I complained most, I think, about that PS4 controller. I hated that thing with the battery life and everything. I am very impressed with the PS5. Very impressed with it. Spider-Man 2, a lot of fun. You guys have talked about it already a lot, so I don't have to get into it too much. But yeah, I just finished the first Craven encounter with Scorpion and Mr. Negative, that whole thing. That was fun.
Is that the intro?
No, the intro is before that.
The intro is Sandman.
No, I made sure I played more than just the intro before I talked about it on here because I was like, I gotta reveal the grand reveal that I also took myself offline so I could put myself back online so you guys can see me. Okay. It was I thought Tony was gonna catch me because Tony was online playing and it'll say last played. It'll show me that I last played Spider-Man 2, but it won't show me online.
Damn, I should have checked my friend list because I was on the day.
But
I get dinged apples on all the time. I'm like
so hard. It's so hard to not message you guys as I was doing it. And even the value, I got $360 for my Xbox. I mean,
you can't beat that.
No, I $500.
I paid $360 for it myself.
What was it? $500 for 4 years for a system? That's fine. I mean, what did I pay? $140 for 4 years of use of a system. That's pretty good.
How many games did you play on it?
Yeah, well, I played like a dragon. How many exclusive games is the question you should ask me?
Just honestly, how many games? You know.
Oh, I don't know. 30 probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
a good
with Game
amount.
Pass, it's tough to count. Yeah, with Game Pass, it's tough to count. You know, so, but like,
You played
yeah, I had a good run
Starfield,
with it.
right? So
I got my use out of it. I definitely got my
No, you
use.
did.
140 bucks easy out of it. Yeah.
I mean, that's
So.
that's the way to look at it. You spend $140 for 4 years, and you have to play 30 games. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know, gotta math it out.
So.
even if you just played one amazing game, it's still pretty good.
Yeah, last year I played a lot on it. I did play a lot of games last year. The year before that was probably light, but you add it up over 4 years, it's probably 30 games for me. It's there's not a lot on that system as we talked about. So, you play a lot of third parties. So, all right, Mike, what have you been playing?
Nothing new, just some
No?
Game Pass games.
Yeah, listen, I'm not faulting. Like Game Pass is a great value. It absolutely is. But I can play that on my Steam Deck. I can play that on my computer here. Like,
Right.
if I want to play Gears of War later this year, if they come out with some surprise us with it somehow, it's not happening. But if they surprise us with that, I can just Game Pass subscription cloud game it.
Gears, the Gears of War is not.
I mean, yeah, I'm just playing sports games right now. I'm playing.
Yeah, that's great.
The show and the golf game. They're both Game Pass games.
Oh yeah, that's cool. All right, Corey, anything?
I'm still playing Final Fantasy. I'm in.
I'm gonna catch you.
Spot. Maybe, but I'm in a spot where I feel like I'm not like progressing. I'm getting off. Like they're like sending me down these like sidetrack things. Like I feel like it just seems weird. Like why am I doing this? Like I feel like I need more agency to.
What chapter are you in?
What's happening? I think I'm towards the end of chapter 8.
Is that Gold Saucer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just feels like why? Like I don't know. Maybe it's the characters. They're just like, oh, we should just have fun and do this thing. But I don't know.
Oh, they're taking what happened in the original and expanding it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is like this is the last.
I don't want to spoil things for Jim.
Yeah. No, Jim played the original. Like you kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I know the specifics,
but
yeah.
But you know, like where
new
it goes,
experience.
Right? Yeah.
I've played this game multiple
times,
not just once. Yeah.
But there's some good moments there. Probably one of the highlights too. That's new for people who have.
I'm excited. I'm excited. So we'll see if I catch it.
I'm trying to get in with my girl Tifa here, and then Aerith's like, hey, let's do these things. I'm like, I don't want to do it with you. Like let's.
I gotta say, playing as Tifa is so incredible. Like,
Tifa is amazing in this game.
Like, you're just fucking martial arts god while you're playing as her, and it's like,
that's cool.
Like anybody else, I'm just like, it's like Barrett. Barrett actually, I like Barrett playing as Barrett because
I think they do a really great job of making everybody feel unique.
Yes,
which is
they do.
Neat.
That's good. I mean, I never liked Barrett in my party. So I don't know if I like playing as.
They make you play him at some point. So
I know I understand that. I know I always used to have. Yeah. Usually it's what's it, Red 9 or Red 13? Red 13. Mm-hmm. I usually have Red 13 in my group. That was my group.
I actually couldn't use Red 13 that much in this game. Barrett is just so cool. Like he's one of my favorite characters overall in the game. Like, we talk about how again Remake and Rebirth have like taken like, oh, this is what we remember Final Fantasy VII is in our heads, but modern day and stuff like that. But a lot of these characters are benefiting from, hey, like your storyline kind of ended here, bud. Like.
Yeah.
Shrug, like, sorry. But, in this one, they obviously have continued storylines and stuff like that. So it's
cool. Cool. All right, Tony, what have you been playing?
Actually, I beat Dead Space today. That was the big thing. Incredible remake. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. I never played the original, but this one was very good. And, again, it just kind of upsets me that we know EA's motive is not working on a sequel, and they're just being relegated to... Hey, well, the one team is doing the Iron Man. They're finishing that game up. And the other one is being a Battlefield content farm, basically. And I'm just like...
Order, yeah.
I'm just like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. Like...
It sold well, too. Like,
it did.
So I'm surprised.
It just kind of like Microsoft. It didn't sell enough to our expectations. What were your expectations?
Yeah, that's what we're going to get into. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with that. It's a lot to dissect.
I'd say, Mike, you should play it because you've gone through Alan Wake now. This is the next step, I think.
Yeah.
Which?
Dead Space.
Eh.
I just
Resident Evil 2 remake.
That's fair.
Well, I don't
Play
want to do that
first.
either.
I don't
No.
understand. And like, was it Square? I mean, we're gonna deal with this news this whole night, but
Yeah.
like Square's going to be going multi-platform. We can just talk about that real quick here. Like talk about that right now.
Multi-platform.
Like, you know what I mean? They were multi-platform to begin with, but no more like exclusives is what their new policy is going to be. And that's because Final Fantasy VII, which is an incredible game, missed expectations. 16, which mixed, but I heard excellent overall. Some people wasn't some people's jam. Obviously, Tony talked about it on here. Also missed expectations. What was the other one? The other one was their
Foam
Splatoon, their
Foam
Splatoon
Stars,
game. Yeah. Missed expectations. So based on all of that, they're going to be going multi-platform essentially. But yes, no more exclusive stuff. Which would be interesting because I thought Sony helped fund Final Fantasy VII, didn't they?
No,
Initially.
absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is, you know, I have a lot to say about this topic. So, just from backstory. So, this is the first big new guidance from the new CEO. His name is Kiryu, ironically enough. And he's more of a finance guy. He came from outside the company and is allegedly a fan of, you know, Final Fantasy and other properties and stuff like that. But, you know, he replaced the CEO sometime last year. And, you know, it's not just, you can't come in right away and just upend the tea table, as they say, right? It's kind of like, hey, let me learn about, you know, the business, how things operate, the teams, the relationships, the politics, whatever. And at some point, he had to have been like, how much did you guys fucking spend on these games? And they're PlayStation exclusive? Are you fucking kidding me?
We've talked about it for weeks now.
Right.
You can't really have exclusive, yeah.
Right. I mean, and like the thing is, because I've been arguing with people I know about this for quite a while, and it's like, when even Sony realized, like, oh shit, Miles Morales, we said you were going to be a PS5 exclusive. Again, only the power of the PS5. We believe in generations. Heck, all of a sudden we can make this work on the PS4. That's so weird. Like, we just kind of like clanked it with a hammer and all of a sudden it started working. That's so weird. Yeah. Same thing with Horizon, you know, for Forbidden West or whatever the fuck it was called. Mm-hmm. PS4 version. No, it's not like a PS5 exclusive. And then God of War Ragnarok, magically, also a PS4 game. It's like, even Sony themselves, who's a first-party publisher, like, saw, like, hey, we can't do this, right? We're going to lose so many sales if we don't cater to the PS4 fan base we already have of 100+ million units.
Yeah.
But Squaresoft is like, or Square Enix is like, yeah, we can do this.
I mean, then another example is Sony talking about moving up their PC releases, too.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to happen over time. They're going to move them not day one, but they'll be out sooner than they have been for these games.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Maybe.
We'll get to that.
But I just, you know, again, it's so hard to talk about this without talking about Microsoft, but I talked about it last week. Like, I do expect Fable to be on the PS5 and maybe the Switch. Switch 2.
I don't expect Fable to be on anything, so
maybe not. But I'm not saying there won't be exclusive games anymore. I'm saying those big, expensive AAA games, quadruple, whatever you want to call those stupid games, will not be console exclusives. You can't afford to do that even as like a third party. Definitely as a third party. Like, Square cannot afford. We've talked about Tomb Raider how many years now about how that screwed that franchise over by making it Xbox exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, especially having it be non-exclusive the first time around.
Yes, I mean, you're right. That hurt worse. But it's just like you can't put so much money into these productions and then limit yourself to one area of sales. That's it. That's all. Well,
the only way you can do that is if you're not footing the bill. Like, if Sony says, we'll pay 50% of this, then that's why it's happening. But they can't. Sony can't afford to do that.
But clearly, it's not 50%. Like, clearly, it's not making up for the difference of selling it on other systems. So that's the problem, and that's bad negotiating. And that's where that guy's mind, like Kiryu, comes into place. Like, he's a finance guy. He sees that. Like, that's where I'm okay with this, actually. You know, owning a PS5 now for the Final Fantasy game, I'm okay with announcing that, like, they want to go more or less exclusives because of that. And, like, because it makes sense financially. You can't survive as a company like this. You can't. especially with development costs. So, yeah.
Right. I would say it never really makes sense for third-party developers, but I still think there's a place for this when I guess Sony's the only one left when you're also trying to sell the system.
I mean,
'Cause that's, like,
Nintendo's.
part of it.
You're never gonna see Mario
mean,
on another console. It's never happening.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
can't say
true.
never, but you know what I mean.
But it's like I just I don't think like that because they don't directly compete in my mind. But they do have a more similar philosophy now than say Microsoft because they don't give a shit anymore about selling systems.
Microsoft's bottom line now. They're finance now.
But you know, I never really understood it for third parties too much, other than I guess the deals someone makes to like get them. They all end up being timed exclusives anyway in the long run. So
Yeah.
So I mean, specifically with Square Enix, right? They were the holdout where it's like you look at these other companies, right? I'm just going to talk about Japan for a second here, right?
Sure.
The big third-party companies in Japan: Square Enix, Capcom, Bandai Namco, right? Those are probably the three big third-party companies in Japan.
Sega.
Yeah, and Sega. Sorry, and Sega, right?
Sega, that's right. Yeah, Sega. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if Sega's bigger than Bandai Namco or not.
Well, I mean, if you include Atlas and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
they probably are. But you see all these other companies, right? And they've all gone third party. They've all embraced it. And when I say third party, like multi-platform, I'm including PC here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Capcom had its best year last year, didn't it?
Absolutely. They just broke their financial records, right? And how long have I been saying that, right? Where it's like, it doesn't make sense, you know, to look at, like, say, Capcom, right? When we saw Street Fighter V, which was a PlayStation console exclusive, and, you know, they released on PC, but that floundered. And a lot of that had to do with the design of the game itself.
Yeah.
But, like, you're just like, fuck you, Xbox audience. Like, okay. I don't even know if it had cross-play back then, because that was different.
No.
But
no.
It was just like, okay. And then Street Fighter V was a disaster. What's his name left over it, right? So then Capcom realized, like, you know what? And even though Sony had actually paid partial development costs for that game, Capcom was like, no, we're gonna do this on our own now. We're gonna do Street Fighter 6 our own. Fuck you, you know, because like Sony, it's like Sony doesn't care, right? Sony, it's not in Sony's best interest to promote whatever fucking third party game it is because they have too many of their own properties now, right?
Yeah.
It was different a decade ago or longer, right? Because they didn't have that portfolio. Now they do. Now they have to juggle like Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon, Last of Us, Uncharted, you know, Ghost of Tsushima. They have their own games to fucking worry about. They can't just, you know, give unlimited attention and marketing to these third-party games that it's like, meh, like we don't really care. We have our prestige games, right? And these other games don't fall in line. I'd say Final Fantasy was probably the closest one that did, but like Street Fighter's not a prestige, you know, like type of game, you know. Resident Evil, as much as I love it, it's not like a prestige like, oh, this is like, you know, we're gonna win awards and we're gonna make a prestige HBO show based on it. That's not gonna happen, right? It's kind of campy. It's video gaming. It's not this, oh, brooding father figure, you know, sad dad issues and stuff like that. That's a small jab. But with Square Enix, it just, they were holding out, and I believe a lot of it had to do with the previous CEO probably had really good business relationships with the Sony people in Japan, right? But over the years, that eroded away, and it was a big thing when Jim Ryan took SCEI's headquarters out of Japan and moved it to America, right? Because now it's like, yeah, you're a Japanese company, but like your studio's in America. So, oh, by the way, we're closing Sony Japan studios down. It's like, what the fuck? I don't know if you guys remember that on that podcast.
Yeah.
I said, fuck Jim Ryan. I said, fuck Jim Ryan. Right? And they kind of gave up Japan. And
they like gave Bloodborne the boot. It's like, what the heck? You have this like super hit here, and
and I hope they're kicking themselves in the ass for that because, you know, they're like, we had a good business relationship with From Software. We had a hit IP, sold multiple millions of copies. We're not going to do anything with it though. We're going to pour all this shit. We'll close
the studio that helped make that game.
Yeah, we're going to close the studio that helped make that game, and now we have nothing. Oh, what's this Elden Ring game? Oh shit. But yeah,
I knew.
So I mean, it's a good thing everywhere, and like honestly, Square needs it. You can't have these games that are upwards of $200 million to make, and
That's the problem.
I mean, you got to get your product the most amount of
exposure
possible.
Exposure, yeah. Yeah, you need that. You need that. So that's where we're heading. All right, let's talk about Nintendo Switch 2 specs. Possibly leaked. We don't know yet, but yeah, it's kind of very rough estimate. Places between a PS4 Pro and a Series S in docked mode. So it's 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigabyte of internal storage. I don't know about that, but it's this is exactly what I want. That's perfect for a handheld. I mean, that's perfect. I like this. The specs for this thing, you're talking about the 1536 CUDA cores, 8048 tensor cores, or so you're getting into really. It's an 8 times ARM architecture, so it's the latest and greatest. It's exactly what you would hope. I mean, we'll see. Nothing's confirmed here, but
nothing's confirmed. But this is basically all but confirmed. I think people were looking at shipment information. And somebody was just like, wait a second, like all these components match up to a handheld device, right?
I mean, look, that's amazing jump for it in power for what you're going from the Switch. So you get that nice bump, which you need badly. I think at this point for getting
definitely 100%.
Yeah,
it's needed.
Yeah, and we'll see what the battery life is with it, but I don't think that matters as much. I mean, my Steam Deck is great.
Small? Are these specs smaller than like the Steam Deck?
Lengthwise, it's a little bit. It's bigger than the Switch right now. Lengthwise, it's just a little smaller than the Steam Deck. But I thought it was.
I thought the screen was going to be bigger.
The screen might be bigger.
Yeah,
I mean the Steam Deck has a lot of like grip.
Yeah.
Power wise though, this should put it ahead of it.
No, absolutely.
From what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most modern. You're not getting better than Xbox Series S performance on a handheld without paying a shit ton of money and sacrificing all battery life.
I was going to say it's probably going to be like a freaking like heater in your hand too. Like it's going to blow up at some point.
I bet it'll run 720 in your hand, so it should not spin up the fans really at all.
No, it's
the way this chip's going. Yeah. Oh, 1080 really on the screen. Ooh. We'll see if it has to run fans then. We'll see.
Gonna have to run something. Like it's like if you're making it that small.
I mean, the Steam Deck gets pretty warm.
No, that's what I'm saying. It gets warm. That's a big boy. Like, like I swapped out the back to have like a better
ventilation or something.
Ventilation and the heat sink. I got a heat sink in there, and like you touch that thing, you could like cook an egg on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's hot. I've touched the top of that thing before when it's really going, and man, that's hot. I'll tell you.
People like snort that vent. So have you seen those?
Don't snort your vents, folks. Don't.
Yeah, don't vent that.
They had to put a PSA out. It's like, wait a second. Stop smelling your Steam Deck.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh man, people.
Yeah. So let's talk numbers. Helldivers 2 has sold 12 million units in its first 12 weeks since release. Congratulations to that developer. Arrowhead, out of like nowhere, this game just took off. The first game was a niche, popular game. This is impressive. It absolutely is. And obviously we talked about it 2 weeks ago with the whole controversy. But through and through, the developer themselves have always been very responsive to the community, and I think that's what's causing the game to grow the way it is. And I think that word of mouth is so good because of that, and that should be a blueprint for so many people for good community relations. Not what Microsoft is doing, what they're I mean this is community relations. This is actually like listening to people, delivering on what it is. It reminds me of Titanfall. Remember what Titanfall was doing? Yeah, very much like that is what it reminds me of. This has a little bit more, maybe not support, but maybe support, popularity, exposure than Titanfall.
Again, Titanfall was an Xbox One exclusive, and
there we go back to exclusives. Yeah, didn't have the exposure.
Yeah, didn't have the exposure. Right?
Helldivers is exclusive in a way. So
and then Titanfall 2 was sent out to die.
One's on a system that's way more popular than.
Right, but I mean, I think Matt Piscatella has said that at least in America, sales are pretty much split between PC and PlayStation 5, which again goes back to the conversation we were just having. where I mean this has to be like some Sony financer or whatever is like fucking giddy right now. They were like jerking off while snorting coke. Everybody's doing coke this episode. Sorry, people, but like he is like, holy shit! I knew it. I fucking called this shit. Like, yeah, I'm getting a bonus. I might get a fucking third house now or whatever like that because, I mean, this game would absolutely still be popular and successful if it was just PS5. But I think that PC market really tapped into the FOMO. Like, oh shit, I need to play this, right?
I mean, there's so many more.
I mean, I got
PC
it.
influencers
I
also
it, but I
out there.
It up, you know,
they're like Twitch streamers on PC that are talking this, and like
and
their followings are huge. And
yeah, so. Absolutely. Like, I mean, I know Corey, you tapped out to me to play the game, but the marketing for it was kind of awful in my opinion. I remember every time it showed up in a state of play or whatever, I was just like, yeah, what are they thinking, right? But then I'm seeing these streamers play. I'm like, holy shit, this looks amazing, right? And as soon as you reach out, I'm like, say no more. I just need one person to play with, like, whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, and it's great. So it paid off. And honestly, that's one of those things now where I'm like, Sony's got to be rethinking their strategy now. Like, they have to be like, because it's the fastest selling title, right, in Sony history.
I think they'll be more selective.
12 weeks. That's 1 million copies a week.
I do think they'll be more selective. I just don't think you'll see like God of War, the next God of War, you know, stuff like that. You'll not see that day one. I just don't see it. But I do think
it also had the crossplay between the two systems.
Right. I think
launching, he's right.
When it's primarily a multiplayer game like this, like
absolutely,
there's no reason not to grab from the biggest group of player base, especially when you've finally have accepted crossplay as a thing that needs to be and stuff. I do wonder though if with the single player games if the double dip works better when it's separated by some time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is going to be that's the last bastion, right, of the holdout here, right? Because, and I'm sure Sony is looking hard at all the stuff Microsoft is publishing for them now, and Sony has direct access to these numbers, right? Because they could see how Sea of Thieves is selling, they could see how Hi-Fi Rush is selling, this, that, and the other thing. But I think it does have to be at least taken into consideration. And again, I'm not saying they're definitely going to do it, but I think this especially will make them think, okay, like once you capture that, you know, zeitgeist of like just reaching that, you know, lightning in a bottle moment, it's hard to capture that again, right? So like, even if you have a critically acclaimed game, you know, it's like, cool, you got the PlayStation users. By the time it comes out to PC, if you're waiting 18 months or more, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, people are going to buy it and you're going to get extra sales. But is it going to be like as many as it could be if it was like, oh shit, like God of War, where are they going? Egypt or whatever, I think, right? For the next one or whatever was hinted at.
I don't know what they hinted at.
It's like God of War Valhalla. Like, oh shit, I need to get that. That's available on Steam. Like that, you know, if that number was bigger, I could see them doing it. I don't think it'll happen, like Jim, I agree, and Mike, I agree. Like, I don't think it's going to happen right away. But 10 years down the line, I don't know.
I think it happens. I think it happens sooner than 10 years, definitely.
Okay. They single player releases?
Not necessarily single player. I think it gets closer and closer. Like, I think we're looking at 6 months. Like, let's say God of War comes out in holiday, and then like summertime, you have God of War on PC. And I think that happens in the next 6 years.
See, what's interesting to me is like I look at Horizon Forbidden West, like that recently came out on PC. And suddenly, everyone's like, "Oh wait, this game is good. We like this game," and it sort of has like a second life that it would not have had even if it released, you know, at the same time, because we remember that was a bad timing with Elden Ring. So I do wonder if
I think it'll be like Tro said a good point in the chat. Like, I think that the big titles will stay, and then like the multiplayer stuff will be launched.
Yeah, but I do think like because you want to keep it going, right? You want to keep the hype and like you're saying the zeitgeist. You want to keep it in people's minds, and so like 6 months later, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it'll be sooner. It won't be 18 months. It'll be like, you know, it'll be half a year. Yes. Let's see. PS5 shipped last quarter, 4.5 million units. That's 5 times more than the Xbox Series X and S shipped in the same period.
So okay, that's part of the quote. The other part was PlayStation 5 is at 60 million?
59.2.
59.2.
As of March 31st.
We can just say 60
yeah.
million. But
Slightly behind PS4. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean PS4 on rate to track alongside, or PS5 tracking alongside PS4, which we all know, wound up at 117, 118, whatever, that kind of number. So in that aspect, combined with that other part of the tweet where Xbox sold 1/5 of what PlayStation 5 did, you can kind of see now where it's like, oh, well, yeah, the market is shrinking, Phil. I'm sorry, Mr. Spencer. I don't want to humanize him by calling him his first name. Okay, the market is shrinking, but whose part of the market is shrinking? Because it's definitely not Sony's. It's definitely not Nintendo's. Are they going to blame the the Google thing? Are they blaming Stadia for it? Are they blaming the Ouya for it? I don't know. Who could they possibly blame this on?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the Switch hardware is doing pretty well, right?
Yeah, it's at 140.
Yeah,
what,
so
140 something.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know who you can.
Has seemingly intentionally been you don't need an Xbox.
That's what Mike has said
the
before.
Microsoft
yeah.
messaging. So
yeah, I mean, 141.32 million units for Switch hardware units. That's fucking incredible.
Remember when you thought it wasn't going to reach 100 million?
Yep, I remember when I thought that
I got to bring that up because I still remember
would be. I thought the system would be a failure. Maybe I don't even know if I thought that, but I always liked it better than the Wii U. Clearly.
Well, yeah. I mean, that wasn't.
But this is way more than anybody could have thought. I think there's no way you could have thought it.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, it was even surprised. Nintendo's upper end ceiling expectations, but it just goes to show, like, if you're making the games that people want, right? People will buy them, and they will buy the system to play those games, right? There's clearly not a problem with Sony's creativity in making their games, right? And that was my biggest critique of them for the longest time, which they released Uncharted, and they released, a couple other games, and then, Last of Us is what I would say, like, really pushed them to get to that next level, right?
Yeah.
And they're out there now. They released a ton of great games, a ton of new intellectual properties and stuff like that, and people are buying the system, and they're buying the games, right? For Sony's end, they just have to work with the numbers. It's just, we can't spend $250 million on these games, or figure out a way to finance those a little bit better, which is, potentially the PC market.
Yes.
It's not like Xbox's problem where it's, hey, you buy up all these studios with all this money.
Shit down.
You have the money to buy them, but you don't have the money to run them. Like, what the fuck are you talking about right now?
Award-winning studios, just to tie this in. Tango Gameworks. Yeah, I mean, Tango Gameworks, there's no rationale as to why that studio was closed. But
no, and that part is probably the most upsetting to me. And, like, good luck. Any closures is upsetting, right? Because that means the industry is getting smaller, talent is leaving, and even though, a game might not be great from a studio, there's certainly still talented people. It's just, the games are the product of hundreds of, if not thousands of developers instead of, dozens and maybe 100 or 200, right? And a lot of those people just do not come back. They leave the fucking industry because they're like, I'm tired of this shit, tired of having to fucking move all over the West Coast to fucking, go to some bullshit overpriced city in the United States of America, and, upend my entire family and stuff like that. So, for Microsoft to champion Game Pass for all these fucking years, how long did they say, oh, well, the successes of the really big games will mean we can fund, the small, like, new games. And it's like, okay, cool. Sure. Like, last year we got Hi-Fi Rush, we got, Pentiment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they fucking shut down these studios. And, like, I think if it was just, what was it? Arcane Austin was one of them. The Redfall developers.
Yes.
If it was just them, I don't think there would have been as much of a backlash right now, right? Like, it would have still be like, oh, good old Microsoft, fucking laying off people again. But like when you close Tango Studios, right? That is like the definition of what you should want from your
They
suite.
literally said they wanted that last week.
That's the thing. It's like the next day they're like, we want smaller games from smaller studios that can win us awards. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, dude?
Close that. You just closed that.
And like, even one of the Tango people posted a tweet with all their awards lined up, and it was like, was this not enough for you? Because what other fucking games are you publishing that you're winning awards, Mr. Spencer, Mr. Booty, Mrs. Bond?
Again, it goes back to like, you can't trust what the fuck they're saying. You can't.
No,
I can't anything they say. They're a bunch of. They're just spin artists.
I heard, reports that the Xbox people aren't even, calling the shots. Like, and they have no idea what was going to happen.
Tony was talking about that last week. He didn't make the podcast, but like, they spent $70 billion, the largest purchase that Microsoft has ever done, and that's enough money now to bring the eyes of Microsoft, the company, onto Xbox Studios, and that's what's happening right now. Yes.
Yeah, because there are numerous tweets and articles, and it's even hard for me to fucking bring them up again because I get lost because there's so many these days. But I think they've even like some of these outlets have reached out to like former Microsoft higher ups, managers, directors, and above, and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, you can't. Like before, Xbox was just like, oh, it's our like little pet project of Microsoft, and we're trying to expand it, and it's great, and like they can obfuscate the numbers a little bit and stuff like that. Where it's like, oh, you're losing a little bit of money one year, you're making a bit of money next year, evens out, right? Yeah. But then to gobble up in a decade, 70 plus 10 from ZeniMax, 4 from Mojang Studios for Minecraft. When you get fucking your CEO to spend almost $100 billion on just acquisitions, right? And that's just acquisitions. This is not, research and development, which is usually the biggest part of running and creating video games, right? That's the big part.
Yeah.
All these other branches of Microsoft are going, why is the fucking loss leader, why is like the biggest, negative on our asset book getting the most amount of money, right? And it's not just the other brands of Microsoft. It's fucking people on the board. It's people, the shareholders. Like, what are we doing? Right?
Yeah. Why are they getting this much money to play with?
Yeah. How are we making our money back? Like, how are we making money? It's like, what is going on here? I get Minecraft. Minecraft is a global phenomenon, and like you can market the shit out of that. You can
merchandise it. Yeah, absolutely. That was a great investment.
Yep. No, I'm sure that's made tons of money for them over the years. But when you're spending $70 billion on a company, and like, sure, King can make a lot of money in the mobile market, and like Blizzard's a well-known name, but like, but now you're changing. You have to change the way this company operates, just so that way you can make the money back. Not talk about like profit. You're just trying to dig out yourself just out of a hole. Like you're not even trying to like make money from this. You want to try to not lose more than you've already lost. And that's where you have to change. You're going to change the whole model of what these companies do, and that's
absolutely. And I said, I even said when the first news broke out that Microsoft wanted to acquire Blizzard 2 years ago, I said, at that price that they were projecting, $70 billion, they're not going to profit off of that. Like they're not going to see a dime of profit for probably 50 years at least. Like even if they profited, profit, not just revenue, like profit. So you're talking probably $2 billion at this point, right?
Yeah.
For the ABK division, at $1 billion of profit a year, it'd still take 70 fucking years to make that money back.
Yeah. Yeah.
70 years. Like the market changes in 5 years in one console generation. Who the fuck knows what video games are going to look like 70 years from now? Like, are we fucking kidding ourselves right now? And that's what it is. And Microsoft grew too big, and Mr. Spencer thought he was a fucking savvy businessman when he can't even fucking manage the studios he had before then. And that's the part that really bugs me. Is I think it was what's his name, Booty or whatever. He's like, oh, we just couldn't manage all these studios effectively. It's like, then why did you fucking buy them? Like that's like being like,
just let the people that were running them continue to run them. It's like, what is going on?
You would think, but it's like, oh, well, I adopted a dozen cats and I just couldn't fucking manage them all, so I just fucking killed 3. We would call that person a monster in real life if that happened.
Yeah.
And I'm using an animal analogy. If that was kids, like, oh boy, man, people would be furious.
I mean, It's like affecting people's lifestyles and like livelihood here.
Absolutely.
But,
In addition to making the market smaller, in addition to reducing competition, right? Because now it's like, oh, you can't just leave Blizzard and go to fucking Microsoft Game Studios or vice versa. It's the same fucking parent company, right?
Yeah.
So that's the immediate thing, right? That's just the studio closures. But now, the thing I didn't hear you guys talk about last week, and I could be wrong if you did, but imagine being an employee at any of the other studios that are still around, right? It's like,
you got to wonder, what do you have to do? What's the metric?
Right, exactly.
Where's the metric?
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, do you guys know Microsoft is launching
Doom, right?
Microsoft is launching a new game next week. Do you guys know what that is?
Oh, yeah, Hellblade.
Oh, there you go, right?
Yeah.
Imagine being in that studio right now.
Yeah.
Imagine being in that studio right now, looking at Hi-Fi Rush, Tango Works, and it's like, huh.
We're not gonna make that number.
You laid these guys off because they made a award-winning, profitable, metric achieving game.
It's like top 5 on the PSN store right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you admit you fired them because they asked for more people to work on a sequel. Huh. And they didn't have any other projects lined up. So instead of running them, you decided to close them in the studio. What do you think they're thinking right now?
Yeah, id's making Doom.
And
do you know how much money that probably cost id to do?
Yeah.
Like,
also like with Hellblade, like the marketing for that
There's
game,
zero marketing.
There's no marketing.
That's why I said, do you guys know what the next Microsoft game coming out next week is?
I didn't know it was next week, but I knew that was the next game. So when you said next week, I'm like, all right, it's got to be Hellblade at this point. Okay.
It is on the home screen a lot. I will say that.
Good. So they're marketing it.
But you're marketing
to people that already own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're already marketing. You're not bringing in new people, Mike, and you've lost people from this last decision. Like, you've lost loyal fans, like people that have supported your company that's been around for a long time. You've lost people. Like, I'm not the only one here. Like, there's no way I'm the only one that didn't say I'm done with this.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, everybody on Twitter, Reddit, everybody was like, "Well, I'm done. Like, I'm just fucking done." And I'm not going to over-exaggerate. I'm not thinking literally everybody, but like, this is going to be like a marquee moment and a pivotal moment in history for not just Microsoft and Xbox, but the industry, where it's just like, I honestly think this is the tipping point for just like people being mad at closures, right? Because like, you could understand, right, if like a studio is like not profitable, right? Like, it's like, hey, like kind of like when Square let like all their Western studios go, right? Because like, was Crystal Dynamics and what it was like. Yeah, we just couldn't run these guys profitably. We gave them like a decade, right, to make games that were profitable, and we just couldn't. That's understandable, right? Like, it sucks, but they sold them off, right? And
they have data behind that. Like, there's nothing here behind this with Tango that's making the money hand over fist. They're making money for them. The game didn't cost that much to make. Where's the metric?
They didn't lose that money. Like, look at Ben Studios from Sony. Like, they lost money with that biker zombie game, whatever it was, Days Gone. Yeah, they lost money with that, but they're giving them a chance to make another game still, which is interesting.
And then Shiro brings up a good point in the chat. Like, how much is marketing this day with like Twitter? Like, you could just pay for an ad on Twitter. It doesn't cost a lot of money. There's nothing.
Oh no, that's what they've been doing. That has been the only marketing.
I haven't seen Hellblade at all.
The only thing that they've ever done to market is tweet out themselves, not like themselves. There's no Twitter.
I'm talking about a paid ad. I'm talking about a paid ad.
Yeah.
No, they're not doing that.
They were in showcases, but I do think it's sort of like the non-marketing has become marketing, because a lot of influencers now are like, where's the marketing for Hellblade 2? I see that all over the place now.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, part of marketing, yes, is paying these influencers, right? I watch a couple Twitch content creators that literally they hop from game to game because they get sponsorships. That is part of marketing. As far as I know, there's not many content creators, because that's why they're asking. They're like, Microsoft hasn't contacted me about this, right? Like, even Suicide Squad, I saw more marketing for Suicide Squad, which we know was a failure, right?
Nobody's going to be a failure.
I think we had celebrities out there promoting that game. So yeah, like, there's nothing for Hellblade. Nothing. There wasn't, like, I don't know. I don't know what their plan is. That studio is in deep shit right now, and I feel bad for them, because they probably made a great game.
If you make a flop, you're done, and if you make success, you're done. So it doesn't matter.
They've probably made a great game, and it's just not going to sell well, and it's not it's also install base. Like you're also dealing with install base. You're not
What's
pushing
gonna
your
happen
consoles.
is like all these studios, these little studios, they're gonna come up with this new tech for gaming that's gonna be really mind blowing, and then they're gonna like, oh, this is cool. Just take it and use it somewhere else, and like close down the studio, and
Yeah.
that's what's probably gonna happen. Hopefully,
And
'cause
again,
I know like that's their big thing, right? Is their facial tech.
Right, and again, this
Yeah.
is part of what I said when they initially announced it. I was like, they don't care about the fucking studios, right? They don't care about the people. They want the intellectual property. That's all they fucking care about.
EA of this day and age.
Right?
Yes.
And
EA did this for you.
right.
Yes.
While you can look at that, right? I'm not saying there's not a merit to valuing intellectual property highly, but at the same time, if you are devaluing the employees the creators that are working for you, like it is going to be a like self-fulfilling prophecy of failure, because I guarantee you now, like all these other employees, like there was actually one, I forget what studio, I liked it on Twitter so I can go back and look at it, but he said like, I wake up every day now and I am just, I'm just nervous that today might be the day where like my studio gets shut down. And that is no way to live. Like, and that's just him working on a game.
Am I gonna have a job when I go to bed thinking, will I have a job tomorrow? It's
Let's also discuss like future expansion from Microsoft. How do you negotiate an acquisition now going forward?
Never. Yeah. I hope to God the fucking FTC finds their head, pulls it out of their ass, and just fucking presents people and lawyers that can actually put up an argument, right? That can be like, hey, all these things that we said was going to happen happened, and you didn't listen to us last time, so ... fill in the blanks.
The other thing about valuing the IP only is like the reason the IP is good is because the people behind it, right? Is the people that made it in the first place. Like look at what they did with Halo. Like you take the people out of Halo, and then it just crumbles.
Perfect example.
So it's like
perfect example. And they created 343 specifically to curate the Halo franchise, right?
Yeah.
And after what? A decade and a half now? How long has it been since 343? Halo 5?
Halo 4 was the first.
They started in Halo 4.
That was 360, right?
Yeah.
Or was that one?
Yeah.
No,
that was one. That was 360. That was 360. Yeah.
That was the last
360 game.
That was the last 360 game.
Oh my
it was
God.
right towards the end
we're
of it.
talking about 15 years now, right?
Yeah.
So like, what are you doing? And the thing is, again, this is not new. We've known this, right? Look at Lionshead Studio. They closed that down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
Mr. Spencer and fucking Mrs. Moody, what's her name? Bond was talking about how they viewed
now married Matt Booty.
No, but they talked about how they didn't want to repeat, Lionshead Studio because they bought them and they didn't know how to manage them properly because they're like, we're an RPG studio. It's like, yeah, but we don't want you to make an RPG. We want you to make this. It's like, what are you doing? Like, that's their specialty, right? You don't buy a company and tell them, hey, the market direction is moving in a first-person shooter, so we want you to make a first-person shooter. Like, what?
Like, if they're interested in trying that, that's cool.
Sure,
but like,
yeah.
But like, it's like the Forza studio. They're making them something else they want to make, but that's on their own merit. They want to try to make something else.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at Guerrilla. I mean, Guerrilla Games.
Apparently that's what Rocksteady said too, despite everyone hoping or thinking it was the opposite.
Well,
Jason
Schreier did
tweet
they're
in trouble.
I mean, Jason Schreier did say that, and he's like, look, like, there's nuggets of truth to that where, again, so people, I forget who came out and said, oh, well, Rocksteady had pitched this game to Warner Brothers to get it approved. It's like, yeah, but when Warner Brothers is denying anything that's not a games as a service type of game, is it really Rocksteady pitching that? Or
I think the thing is, like, if you're a studio, if you're a creative person, you want to kind of be able to do the things that you are comfortable with, but at the same time make new things too. Like, obviously, Naughty Dog's going from the Jack and Dexter games to like Uncharted games. Like, that was a big departure in a way. And then like Guerrilla Games going from the first-person shooter that they were doing to Horizon. That's a big departure. But it's like when the people behind the studios, that's what they want to do, and that's like they want to make changes because that's kind of what they've been leading towards. That's different than when saying, hey, turn 10, you make racing games, right? So you can make a first-person shooter too. Sure, go ahead and do that. It's like when you're telling a studio to do something,
when you're dictating,
instead of the studio saying, hey, we have been doing this for so long, we want to try to branch out to something new. That's a totally different
thing. And that's exactly what Tango did, right? Because they So Shinji Mikami created that studio to make like Evil Within. So they did 2 games of Evil Within, and then they're like, hey, we want to work on something new. And they what was it? Tokyo Ghost or
oh yeah, the Ghostwire, Tokyo Ghostwire, or something. Yeah,
that's what it is. They made Ghostwire, and then after Ghostwire, everybody expected them to go back to Evil Within. And they're like, actually, you want to do something completely different, and they did Hi-Fi Rush, right? So you had,
and it was successful.
And it was all these games were successful to varying degrees.
Yeah.
Right? It's just Hi-Fi Rush was the most acclaimed and critical.
Yeah.
You know.
But that was a new venture, and it was successful. Either way, forget the acclaim. It was successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you just close them down. But also that ties into like just last year, Phil Spencer was in Japan. He's like, oh yeah, Japanese studios matter to us and stuff like that, right? And it's like, how can you close your only Japanese studio down after saying that, right? Like, it's just ridiculous.
I don't care.
And the thing is,
do we have the real numbers about Hi-Fi Rush? Because I know they said it was profitable, but did we know?
Well, I mean, so that's the thing, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about with Game Pass. We don't know other than what they tell us, right? So the only thing we had to go by was there was a rumor by Jeff Grubb that said, oh, I heard that the numbers are, behind Hi-Fi Rush aren't whatever, right? Aren't good or something like that. And Aaron Greenberg, right? I think is his name.
Yes,
Microsoft guy?
That's right. Yep.
Officially said on his, tweeted in reply to do this was like, Hi-Fi Rush has exceeded every possible metric we have for that game, right? Every possible metric. What does that mean, right? And again, nobody can answer that.
Really?
Mr. Spencer can't answer that question. What does that mean by, exceeding metrics, right? Because they themselves do not know how to fucking profit off of this shit, right? Because Game Pass has stagnated, right? It's there's not enough growth. It's single digit percentage points, right? So it's not meaningfully growing, right? Which is bad for when we're talking about stock and investors and stuff like that. So when they're like, hey, this game was worked on by X many people and Y many years, well, how much money did it make? Well, so like, I don't know, man. How are you calculating profit off of this? Is it time played? Is it downloads? Is it users? Because they announced users. They said 3 million users, I think, within a month or two or something like that. So it's like, I don't know. What are the fucking metrics? What is the math behind this, right? And I even linked another Microsoft guy who's the head of whatever he said, having an email conversation with Phil. Mr. Spencer, did you guys read that or no?
I did. I don't.
This is last week or whatever it was. But he literally questions Phil and goes, what's the number? Like, how are we delineating and calculating a studio's profitability once they release these games? And Phil pushed back. He's like, oh, it doesn't sound like you're on board. He's like, dude, I'm not trying to quarterback you, but like, people, like, we need to know this, right? These studios need to know this because it's ultimately their asses on the line, not yours. So ... So again, it puts into question everything about the Game Pass model, which I've questioned for a fucking long ass time. And I don't think it's going to get any better from here on out.
No, I don't. I agree, and that's why I jumped ship.
Yeah,
I'm done with them myself. So yeah,
fuck Microsoft.
Yeah, no, it's not a great look, and I think that's it for the news. Did we get everything? Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks, that's gonna wrap up the Gamecast. On that note, don't think we'll have any Microsoft news next week. We'll see.
Who knows? Too early to say. Who knows? Too early to say, my friend.
Stay tuned for that.
We got a lot of studios to close, so
there are, unfortunately. Hopefully not. But we're getting close to summer though, so we're gonna have some announcements of games, and that's exciting. Always exciting.
I think the Keighley showcase thing is early June.
Summer.
Yeah, we got about 3 more weeks. About 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
So that's coming up very soon. Once again, join us on Twitch live on Twitch. I'm sorry, Tuesday nights 8:00. If you can't be here, YouTube has all of our stuff, so subscribe, leaves comments over there. A lot of good stuff to talk about coming soon. We'll see you guys. We are out.